welcome everyone. My name is Mikhail Vartanian and I'm your moderator for this meeting. And yeah, I thank you all for coming. We don't have a very big room, but this room is very well filled. So I've seen in other events how the organizers try to manipulate the size of the room against the number of people they are expecting. So it's good that we have a full room of climate reporting geeks in this morning. Is it the morning? No, it's an afternoon already. Thanks again for coming. It's good to see you. We all know here that climate reporting is not boring. It's exciting. It's growing. It's changing, and I hope that we will have a lot of interesting, new, exciting information today. And so I'm looking forward to introducing the first speaker today, who is joining us virtually, but so far she's not connected. Yeah, okay. So let us wait for another couple of minutes and see when they will be able to join us. So just one more minute. Our first speaker is supposed to be the chair of the CGE, Ms. Virginia Sena. But in case she cannot connect, we have a very capable backup for her. He's coming.
She's not online.
Okay. Clear. Okay, so it looks like Virginia cannot join us today, and with that, I would like to ask my colleague Rihab to read her statement on behalf of Virginia. Rihab, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Mikhail, and good afternoon, distinguished guests. On behalf of the Consultative Group of Experts, CGE, I have the honor to welcome you to this side event on the CGE 2020-2021 and its achievement, and to hear from the national expert on how they are preparing for implementation of the enhanced transparency framework. In 2020, the CGE formulated its vision, mission, and strategic objectives to guide its work, keeping the long-term needs and priorities of developing countries as they implement the existing measurement, reporting, and verification arrangement under the Convention, and to prepare to transitioning to the enhanced transparency framework under the Paris Agreement. The CGE, using innovative approaches and methods, successfully implemented its work plan for 2020 and 2021. This has resulted in training of 609 national experts through 14 virtual training hands-on training workshops, reaching 709 experts through webinars on key thematic issues, developing, translating, and disseminating online training resources, which include animation videos, technical handbook, and hands-on exercises, compiling and summarizing capacity building needs for the preparation of the National Communications and Biennial Update Reports. At the CGE, we hope parties utilize these materials, especially in the crucial time as countries initiate the process of implementation of the Enhanced Transparency Framework. The CGE is fully committed to assisting developing countries on their important journey to implementing the MRV arrangement and use it as a foundation for the ETF. In closing, the CGE looks forward to hearing from you on your needs and how the CGE can continue to support you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rehab. Thank you for your statement on behalf of the CGE chair. Now I would like to pass the floor to the Secretariat, Mr. Donald Cooper. He is Director of Transparency Division with the UNFCCC Secretariat, and like at CGE, we are very happy with the way the Secretariat is supporting our work. So Don, welcome, and you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I've been running my third or fourth marathon today, and I have been keeping track of my little heart monitor thing on my mobile phone. I've been averaging about 12 kilometers a day, and that's only walking from my office to these wonderful venues and back. And I shudder to think how much commitment it takes for you guys to be moving back and forth all the time. High level of thought. Must be exhausting. Well, thankfully, during your 1.5 hours lunch break, we decided to invite you to another meeting, as if you have not had enough of those yet. But this is kind of a special one. It's not really a meeting. It's more a celebration. I don't know what all these fantastic experts want to say and to tell you about all the great things that are going to happen in the world. But I can tell you about the things that happened in the last 2 years. And under the CGE, it has been quite extraordinary. I stood back amazed at how they took one of these old sayings that we have in the Bahamas, my country. If life gives you lemons, make lemonade. In other words, if you are challenged, deal with it. Turn the negative into a positive. And that has been almost like an invisible motto of the CGE. Challenge after challenge after challenge resulted in better and better and better solutions. It was amazing to watch. And the impact on parties was quite extraordinary. We very rarely hand out compliments amongst the polite diplomatic community. We tend to say it was okay, or it met expectations. But in listening in November to the comments from parties from all spheres about the work of the CGE, it was unanimously complimentary. That very rarely happens. So clearly, you're doing something right. The message to you should be, keep going. It's working. The thing that struck me the most was, whilst that early debate was going on Should we look at more virtual meetings? No, no, no. We must all have our meetings in person. I noted in the CGE, their response was, well, I can't have them in person now, so I'm going to have them virtually. When I can have them in person, I will have them in person. If I can have both, I will have both. If I can have something else, I will have that as well. Whatever makes life better or more productive for the parties, that is what the CGE did. So I want to take these few minutes of your time and just celebrate the accomplishment. Now, that's done. You've had your moment. We've acknowledged the great things. But there's always tomorrow. What are you going to do for us tomorrow? Bearing in mind that if the world continues to take the positive turn, we will be back to having our in-person meetings in some fashion. How will you take advantage of that? The lessons learned over the last 2 years and build on it. We have managed through the CGE to move away from training an expert, or if we are lucky, 2 experts from a country in a group setting to, over the virtual mechanism, that number has jumped to 8, 9, 10, 12 people at a time. So the base within the country has grown. So now when you bring those experts into a real-time situation with other experts, instead of everybody starting on step number 2, all of a sudden they're starting on step number 6. So the rewards to the parties based on what was done over the last 2 years, and when we can pull everybody back into the same time zone, is going to be, I think, quite remarkable. So I am very pleased to be a part of the support mechanism for the CGE on the Secretariat. I am very pleased that whenever I get to address the work program of the CGE, I can smile because I know it has been good. And I am very pleased to see the discussions on the CGE being very positive in all spheres. And that came about because it worked. I am very conscious of what parties have to do over the next 2 or 3 years. And we have to ensure that systems, mechanisms, whatever works for the parties are in place for them to be able to thrive. And it is nice to know that the CGE can be relied upon to be a part of that delivery. So I want to thank everyone and also let you know that the CGE is certainly working on behalf of all of the parties, and it is a very promising future in what they should be able to deliver. So with that, congratulations, and thank you for letting me interrupt your session and also get a 5-minute break in between this marathon. Just don't tell anybody I took a break. It's supposed to be a non-stop race, but I took a pause here because I couldn't resist. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, Don. And yes, I can just echo the positiveness, the positive atmosphere in the CGE, which is to a large part also due to the excellent support that your team is providing. I would like to name them by names, but I'm afraid that I will forget someone. Okay, I see Nikki and Baba in the room, but the team is larger, and it provides us with some excellent support. Thank you very much, Don. And yeah, I guess with that, we will. Are you staying with us? No, please, you are welcome to stay.
I know when I'm not wanted. You guys are going to talk
You're
secrets.
more than welcome to stay. Okay, Thank you, Don. And with that, let's get into the weeds and the very substantive part of our presentations today. And my colleague Arif is going to talk to you now about the achievements of the CG in the last 2 years. Arif, you have the floor, please.
Thank you very much, Michael, and thank you very much for the dear participants. In this short intervention, I will be telling you about the key achievements of CG and the work it has done during 2020 and 2021. Dear colleagues, who's running the slides? During
the presentation?
2020, in the...
You need to use this one.
Okay.
Green, I think.
Green. Okay. In the light of the Catalyst decision in 2020, CGE developed its mission, vision, and strategic priorities until 2026. During the period 2020 to 22, CGE planned to work on identifying gaps and needs assessments and promoting understanding relating to the existing MRV arrangements and introduce and facilitate transition to the ETF. During the second phase from 2022 to 2024, keeping in mind that first BTRs are to be submitted, CGE planned to promote and facilitate implementation of the ETF, in particular the preparation and submission of BTRs under the ETF and of the national communications. During the last and third phase, 2024 till 2026, CGE planned to gather lessons learned and good practices, identifying areas for improvement to refine the approaches and tools. Based on the work plan developed, CGE has 4 key areas on which CGE plan to work during the first phase of our mission. These key 4 areas are knowledge products, knowledge delivery, collaboration and engagement, and capacity building needs assessment. Dear colleagues, the CGE has been conducting a review of the capacity building needs at times through surveys and also reviewing the national communications and the biennial update reports. In this diagram, you can see the thematic breakdowns, the challenges, and the capacity needs that the parties have identified. You can see that the parties had identified almost 43% of the parties identified that they need capacity building in national greenhouse gas inventories compilation. 25% of the parties identified adaptation as the key challenge, whereas 13% talked about the mitigation as a hindrance in their progress. Then 16% cross-cutting issues were identified, and 4% of the parties identified that sport is critical for the submission of their communications. You can find further details about the survey on the CGE website as well. Let me take you to the first of our segment of our work plan, that is the knowledge delivery. During the 2020 and 2021, CGE conducted 7 workshops each with 2 different themes. In the workshops that were conducted in 2020, the theme was MRV arrangements under the convention and the ETF under the Paris Agreement. In these workshops, which were conducted in Arabic, English, French, Spanish, and Russian, 296 experts from 108 countries were trained. During this year, with the theme on institutional arrangement for existing MRV arrangements and the enhanced transparency framework, including data management for the national greenhouse gas inventories. From 90 countries, 313 experts were trained. Despite of the COVID situation, though, initially while we were developing the plan in 2020, and the workshops were scheduled physically, but due to the COVID situation, we had to convert it into the virtual settings. The core objectives of these workshops were to identify gaps and address capacity building needs in planning and preparing for the implementation of the enhanced transparency framework, with better understanding of the existing RV arrangements and good knowledge of the modalities, procedures, and guidelines for the ETF. Further objectives were to acquire good knowledge of the key components of the institutional arrangements, effectively articulate the areas that are essential to setting up, sustaining, and continually improving the institutional and legal arrangements in the countries. And then, of course, the key element was also about acquiring examples and of tools and practices that the countries are presently doing in their respective countries. Sharing of the lessons was another key aspect of these trainings. Now I come to the second part of the knowledge delivery that is about the informal forum. The informal forum was conducted to showcase the work of the CGE and to conduct focus group discussions on capacity buildings, assess the finance for the preparation of the BURs and BTRs, and domestic buy-ins in their respective countries about the knowledge delivered. The first one was done in November 2020, and the second one we have now planned, which will be convened in the first week of December. Now I come to the third knowledge delivery thing, that is about the webinar. A webinar series during these 2 years was also organized. During the last year, there was webinars on revision or revised 1996 IPCC guidelines to the 2000 IPCC guidelines. So these webinar was basically on how the addressing the transition to these guidelines. Then there was webinars on synergies at the national level in data collection for reporting under the existing MRV arrangements, ETF, the SDG monitoring framework, and other international instruments. And the third and the last webinar series was on embedding climate reporting in national statistics as a way of enhancing national arrangements in a sustainable manner. So these webinars caught the attraction of almost 709 experts, and during these years, it was a massive attraction that the CG has observed. Let's come to the next part of the work plan, that is about the knowledge delivery. CG prepared video animations on MRV and ETF arrangements, 4 prepared recorded videos on introduction and review of the ETF, reporting under the ETF, foundational elements of the modalities, procedures, and guidelines, and linkages as how the ETF supports the Paris Agreement. You can find it at YouTube in English, French, Russian, and Spanish languages. Secondly, CGE provided technical materials on key aspects of the existing MRV arrangements and how they can be enhanced to support implementation of the enhanced transparency framework. Then the technical materials were on key considerations in transitioning to implementing the ETF, overview of the institutional arrangements, including data managements for the purpose of the transparency. Besides these, there were some infographics that were also developed by the CGE. Hands-on exercises were done, and tools were developed to conduct stakeholder analysis, rapid assessment of how their current reporting compares with the reporting provision of the ETF. So another key component of the CGE knowledge delivery was about the preparation of the handbooks. 3 handbooks were prepared during these 2 years. The first handbook was on MRV for developing country parties. The second one was on technical handbook on preparing for implementation of enhanced transparency framework under Paris Agreement, and handbook on institutional arrangements to support MRV, transparency of climate action and support. Besides these, a technical paper on the country's challenges and gaps was also produced, based on the survey as well as the national communication and BUR reviews. Next, CGE is well connected with the technical expert, with other constituted bodies under the convention. And in this context, CGE has a interactive website. You can find many of the materials from there. An MRV ITF help desk has also been created. CGE can be found at social media, at Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook pages, and over time, the visibility of the CGE have been found increasing. In addition to that, CGE is well linked with the constituted bodies and experts groups. Under the convention, we share our work, we provide the inputs to the work they are doing in the different domains and areas. Keeping short, we are very ambitious for the greater role of CGE for knowledge delivery to the country parties. CGE will keep developing and disseminating guidance documents and tools, topics such as transitioning from existing MRV arrangements to the ETF, conducting hands-on training, workshops on specific issues related to the MRV and ETF arrangements, and convening of information sessions such as sharing of lessons, learning of the best practices from different countries, and compiling and disseminating information on practical tools and methods for enhancing national MRV arrangements and sharing good practices and examples. So with this, I say thank you very much. You can explore CGE website for further information. Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Arif. And thank you very much, Arif. You've told us about all of our achievements, and somehow I cannot believe that we achieved that much. But it's for the public to judge us, really. You've mentioned some actually dry numbers and official names of our products, but we know that behind it some exciting work. My favorite was actually editing the cartoons in Russian, but it was also a lot of drafting and reviewing and discussing that went into it. Facilitating workshops as well, also in different language groups. So thank you very much. Before we switch to the next part of this event, maybe there are any questions to Arif or Rehab at this stage. We have 2 mics in the room. No questions. Good. So let's see if questions will come later after country presentations. And with that, I'm handing over to my colleague Rehab to lead the second part of this event. Rehab, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mikhail, and thank you, Arif, for your insightful presentation. And colleagues, in this part of the side event, we will discuss the sustainable institutional arrangement for the implementation of the MRV and the enhanced transparency framework. And as you all aware that institutional arrangement is very crucial for both reporting under the MRV and ETF, as it provide and ensure data availability and data flow. So let me provide an overview of the CGE Institutional Arrangement Toolbox, which my colleague Arif has just touched upon. Last year, the CGE prepared a handbook on institutional arrangement to support MRV and transparency of climate action and support. And this is available in all UN language. And based on this handbook, the CGE conducted training on institutional arrangement. This is available through the UNFCCC website. The handbook was also translated into all 6 UN languages. And as countries are at different starting point, learning from experiences of one another is a key. The CGE has compiled a total of 27 case studies, compiled on challenges and lessons learned. In addition, 7 video compilation from experts are included on the site. And we are happy to note that the latest submission is from one of our speakers from Montenegro. He should be available here with us, but unfortunately he had some technical problems, so he couldn't join. So if any country would like to contribute, please get in touch with us. And lastly, I would like to mention that the CGE has conducted its hands-on training this year on institutional arrangement for both MRV and ETF. As part of the training materials, there are short presentation and hands-on exercise on stakeholder analysis, which all parties can use and get benefit from it. These were well received by participants, and I hope that others also take advantage of these materials and can use it as well. With this, I would like now to invite our first speaker today, Ms. Rina Shah, from the United Nations Statistics Division, UNSD. The CGE has been collaborating with the UNSD this year on regional webinars on embedding national statistics in climate reporting. Rina could not join us today in person, but she is attending virtually. I would like to invite Rina to provide her presentation on promoting the involvement of National Statistics Office in the transparency arrangement. Rina, good afternoon, and you have the floor. Rina, could you hear us? But we couldn't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, loud and clear. Please proceed.
Okay, sorry. I've tried to share my screen. I'm not sure if you can see my screen. The presentation, I mean. I'll try again. Can you tell me if you see my presentation?
Actually, no.
Yes, we can see now.
Sorry, I see only her.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see.
Okay.
Now, please, I'm showing the whole thing. Can you see it?
Okay, we see you. Please proceed.
Okay. Thank you very much to UNFCCC and to Rehab from the CGE for inviting the United Nations Statistics Division, or UNSD, to this very important side event at COP26. UNSD is part of the Department of Economic and Social Affairs, that's DESA, and I'm the Chief of the Environment Statistics Section at UNSD. This is the outline. I will try to be as brief as I can, as I know I have a time constraint, but I will try to cover the most important points during this presentation. So why do I talk about climate change statistics being similar to environment statistics? That's the area that I've been working on for all of my career at the UN, that's environment statistics. But what we've been doing now, working more on climate change statistics, which we find has great similarity to environment. So what I would say is that there are a multitude of stakeholders, institutions within a country, and a large amount of collaboration is needed among these various institutions. Also, the type of data are very, very diverse, ranging from administrative data to scientific data to traditional data collected via surveys. So it's also very important to have an institution that understands all these different kinds of data and can bring them together. And there's also a large volume of data. I mean, that's really also another big point that is very important to touch on because of the large amount of information that is needed to measure or monitor climate change. So I will come to this later, but just to mention already here that there was a lack of an underlying framework for climate change statistics, and we at UNSD have developed a global set of climate change statistics and indicators, which was mandated by the 47th session of the Statistical Commission in 2016. For those of you who are not aware, the Statistical Commission is the governing body which we at UNSD rely on to make all our work programs, and it consists of all member states, and they meet annually in New York every year, except during COVID. It's been virtual, but we hope that we'll be able to have a physical meeting next year again. So this global set will provide a comprehensive statistical framework with statistics, indicators, and metadata, as well as support the reporting requirements of countries under the ETF, as well as the Goal 13 climate change indicators. Then I'd like to touch on a little bit about the role of NSOs. Specifically, I already mentioned some information, but we have been working very closely with the national statistical offices, and they can contribute to or sometimes even coordinate climate change statistics from the whole system, because they have the mandate to produce official statistics and also validate data or statistics that are produced by other institutions in the country, as they do have the role to coordinate the whole entire national statistical system. And national statistical offices also have a stronger capacity to deal with multidisciplinary and comprehensive information flows, rather than single institutions that might produce the primary data, but the NSO can bring them all together under one roof. And also NSOs provide the activity data for the compilation of the GHG inventories. And then some of the good practices of NSOs that we have noticed over the years in environment statistics, but also now in climate change statistics, that many countries have established working groups at the national level, usually coordinated by the NSO, where they bring together the various stakeholders to discuss what are the issues, priorities, data needs, data gaps, etc. And also this can help to provide climate change information to UNFCCC. We have also noted that a dedicated unit or section in an NSO on environment statistics has been very key. And now we are seeing that some NSOs have actually established combined environment and climate change statistics units. And these are a few examples. I'll come to this later, but we have recently conducted a global consultation on our draft climate change statistics global set. And we have learned a lot more about such practices in the last few months. So we noticed that this is very good news. It's a growing area of development. Both the working groups as well as the units or sections in an NSO. With regard to data collection dissemination and what is the role of the NSO, it is really important to establish routine, formalized data collection by NSOs from existing institutions. This can be done through actual questionnaires, forms, surveys, Excel files, hard copies. There's many different ways that the NSO brings these data together, but it is really important to be able to put them together in an NSO because they can also make linkage between environment or climate change statistics with existing economic statistics, linking to classifications of economic statistics so that one can look at the relationship to the economy as well as social and demographic statistics, which are the traditional areas that NSOs focus on. Another aspect is the use of surveys and censuses. So in this regard, I mean, traditionally environmental or climate change related questions may be included in existing surveys such as household surveys, living conditions surveys, etc. But now we have noticed and very happily that climate change impact surveys have actually been conducted, specialized surveys by at least 2 countries that we're aware of, that's Bangladesh and Nepal. And also in censuses, for those of you who are familiar, that happen every 10 years, it is very difficult to get even an environmental question or section in a census because it is very expensive to conduct. So what we are encouraging is for NSOs to consider including environmentally related and now more specifically census in the census, more specifically having climate change questions or sections. And we are pleased to learn that Tanzania, I think it's the first country we're aware of, that is planning to include dedicated questions of climate change in their upcoming census next year. And that is truly an achievement. With regard to dissemination, we know that there's a growing number of national statistical offices, such as Jamaica. In 2016 is the first country we're aware of where an NSO produced a dedicated climate change statistics report. And then Tanzania, the National Statistics Office also did one in 2019, and we know that Suriname is planning one next year, and there's probably others, but we don't know all the information. And at the regional level, there's also been some examples from the Economic and Social Commission of Western Asia, and then also the Caribbean community produced climate change statistics report last year. So a little bit of background to our work on development of global set of climate change statistics and indicators. This gives a picture of where we have been involved, and we started actual work in 2008, and we had a discussion at our Statistical Commission in 2009. But because of the political nature of climate change at that time, global work on climate change statistics was temporarily put on hold. Then in 2016, UNSD received a mandate to develop a global set of climate change statistics and indicators. We developed this draft set in collaboration with UNFCCC and with our expert group on environment statistics. We conducted a pilot survey last year and then had an extensive global consultation this year. And it is planned to submit this global set to our 53rd session of the Statistical Commission next year for adoption. A little bit about the background to this. As I said before, there was no underlying framework linking the reporting requirements stemming from the Paris Agreement and the necessary statistical indicators to support climate policy action. UNSD has been working very closely with UNFCCC, in particular with our colleague Vlad Truska, who I know is in the room too, to develop such a framework explicitly for climate change. And the global set is structured according to the IPCC framework and the framework for the development of environment statistics. And we link to the relevant articles of the Paris Agreement, the decisions under the work program adopted in Katowice, as well as SDGs, Sendai, etc., to ensure the link between policy and statistics. And now coming to the global consultation that I mentioned earlier, we conducted this this year. And it was sent to all member states, to the national statistical offices, but we asked them to collaborate with the focal points reporting to UNFCCC and other relevant institutions in the country. We received 85 responses, and you can see from the map there's very wide and regional representation. And the consultation was divided into two parts. Part one was on the institutional dimension of climate change statistics and indicators. And the second part was the actual draft global set that consists of 134 indicators with their underlying statistics to show the transparency of what is needed to compile an indicator. It is also accompanied by metadata for all the indicators and structured according to 3 tiers to assist countries in identifying and applying the statistics and indicators that are of greater priority to their specific country. So there was a lot of information that we received from the global consultation, but in the interest of time, I'm only going to touch on 2 questions that we received from countries in part 1 of the consultation. These are the ones that relate more specifically to the work of UNFCCC. We asked a question about whether the NSO is currently involved in the preparation of the country's GHG inventory as part of the reporting obligations to UNFCCC, and this is what we received. So we have 38 countries that said yes, and they provide a lot of the source data as well for the compilation of GHG inventories for waste, agriculture, GDP, etc. They also provide data to other line ministries which may be acting as the focal person for the GHG inventory. And NSOs also informed us that they're involved in training and compilation and involved in the preparation of the actual report, which is a really good sign because I think this is also very indicative of progress being made to involve NSOs over the years. Some countries did say
Rina,
no.
Sorry, Rina, I don't want to interrupt your interesting
Yes?
presentation, but I believe that we are running out of time. If you could please speak.
I'll be fast.
Thank
I'll
you.
be fast. Yeah,
Thank
I just have a couple more slides. Thank you. So some reasons NSOs said that they cannot be involved because they didn't have a legal or institutional mandate to collaborate, but they still do indirectly contribute. Then the next question was whether the NSO is collaborating with the national focal point, and we see that about 46 countries said yes, and they indicated that degree and nature of this collaboration does vary greatly among the countries. And the last 2 slides, just to show you some examples of the collaboration between UNST and UNFCCC to strengthen the link between statistics and policy. We have joint reports to the Commission, joint side events at our Statistical Commission, and joint capacity development events. And lastly, in red, just because we're talking about the CGE, I wanted to mention, as Arif spoke to already, we have been participating in these regional webinars along with our 5 regional commissions to the United Nations. And finally, the last slide is about our planned actions, where we indicate that we're going to be submitting the global set to the Commission next year for adoption, and we will continue to explore ways with UNFCCC to strengthen the relationship between NSOs and the national climate change reporting authorities. And there are some examples here on the slide. So thank you very much, and sorry if I went a little bit over time. Thank you.
Thank you, Rina, for your informative presentation. Maybe if parties are interested to raise questions for Rina before she leaves. Yeah, please, at the back.
Thank you very much. Ina Porras from UK Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office. I may have missed it in your presentation, but is this statistical framework aligned with the Natural Capital Accounts framework, the SIA framework? Thank you.
Another more question? If no, Rina, I over to you to respond to question from our guest. Rina? It seems that we lost the connection with Rina. Okay, I think it's time now to move to hear experiences from parties, and I believe that all the parties here have rich experience in preparing their national communication and biennial update report. And today's panel, we have Miss Anita Mills from Jamaica, Mr. Mahak from Cambodia, and Mr. Mohammed Giama from Ghana. I would like to begin to asking the panel. Are the panel going to join us here in the podium or? Okay, please. I call upon Anita, yeah, Mahak and Mohammed. Maybe I move there. The panel. What are the key lessons learned from the existing MRV arrangement as you start the process to prepare for the enhanced transparency framework? And started with you, Anita.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Give me just a second because I lost my notes. Can I?
Yeah, okay. Maybe we can move to the other panelist, Mr. Mohammed.
Hello, okay. I'd like to thank the CG and the Secretariat for inviting Ghana to be part of this discussion and to present our experience in relation to the preparation of the national communications and the relevant reports to the Secretariat. So in terms of our lessons from preparing the MRVs, over the years, we realized that the work was centralized between a very limited number of institutions with the lead of the EPA. And so what we've done is to bring on board a number of institutions to add on to the ones that are already supporting in the preparation of these reports, from the local assembly to the power producers, the independent power producers, and the rest. We've also engaged in continuous capacity building for these institutions because without the appropriate data, you'll not be able to come out with very credible information. We've also learned that depending on the credibility of the report that we produce and the ease with which the policymakers understands what we've made, it informs decision-making going forward. So we've done our best to make sure that we have credible reports and informations are put in a way that is very understandable to our policymakers to help them take the relevant decisions. We also noticed that we need a lot of finance to be able to come up with the number of reports that we need to work on, from the national communications to the BURs to the inventory reports. And so over the years, we've tried our best to get the government involved in funding some of this report's preparation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mohammed. And now, over to you, Anita.
Thank you. Thank you, colleagues. Good afternoon, everyone. Anita Mills from the Climate Change Division in Jamaica.
First of all, allow me to thank you for this kind invitation to Jamaica to share insights into national transparency processes and the overall progress meeting reporting requirements under the convention and under Article 13. I stand here representing key national experts that were not able to come to Glasgow, who are very, very involved in the process of setting up our MRB system in Jamaica, and who work increasingly into meeting reporting requirements, not only because it's part of Jamaica's responsibilities as party to the convention, but because we are committed to be transparent about our climate contributions. I am especially pleased to share with my fellow panel colleagues that the implementation of the capacity building initiative for transparency in Jamaica has started with the aim to strengthen Jamaica's transparency framework through the design and implementation of a fully functional and harmonized domestic measuring, reporting, and verification system. This is an important project that will help Jamaica strengthen transparency framework and processes, and most importantly, to enhance our capacity to engage in the national processes for transparency reporting. Also to improve knowledge sharing and effective coordination, which is one of our main challenges, Madam Chair, amongst national agencies in the implementation of transparency-related activities. We have successfully now established a national transparency working group. Is mainly a public sector body with technocrats from agencies with an interest in carbon emissions and this particular topic, which is a very fun topic we have established already. We have included in this National Transparency Working Group not only the Climate Change Division, led by Omar Alcock, our senior technical officer for mitigation, our national expert Clifford Malone, and Dr. Kwame Emmanuel from the CIVIT project, who are not here, but very happy to be leading this National Transparency Working Group. And we have also included the Transport Division, the Forestry Department, the Development Bank of Jamaica, the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, our Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, our National Spatial Data Management Division, and also the regional MRB hub located in Grenada as an observer. We're also in the process of formalizing the participation by the Energy Division from the Ministry of Energy, the e-government entity that is looking into ICT features for different elements of the different processes in Jamaica's government, and the National Solid Waste Management Authority, and also the private sector, Madam Chair. We are looking into involving the utility, the Jamaica Public Service JPS company. And the reason we are putting a lot of interest and careful consideration into engaging with these different institutions is because we have established that one of the main challenges is interagency coordination. When we engage in national transparency processes, as we all know, requiring the data from the different entities is a process that, at least in Jamaica, is consultancy by consultancy, project by project basis. And we are trying to develop that capacity among all these agencies to understand the process and hopefully also be beneficiaries from training. So we welcome very much the initiatives from the consultative group, the knowledge sharing, and definitely agree with the silver lining of the last 2 years, which is the virtual world has allowed for more participation. We don't have our experts today, but I'm very sure that they're following the conversation from home, and they have also been beneficiaries from the training and have also involved not only these agencies that I have listed just now, but more of our colleagues in country, because that's what we need. We need capacity building, we need to involve more people, more experts, and we need to look into how we're going to involve this into the university levels. And one of the outcomes of the CIVIT project in Jamaica is to generate education programs, I will say a curricula at the university level that, for example, if you are pursuing a master's degree related to climate change or related to any of the areas of energy, agriculture, you may be able to get and benefit from perhaps a module that speaks on reporting and transparency processes. And that's what we're looking under the CIVIT project, and hopefully in the next years, as we move along the work program for the CGE, we will see that happening in Jamaica, which is ultimately what we want, build that national capacity and be more independent from consultants and be able to do this at the national level, accelerate our reporting. We have completed the submission of national communications recently, last year, and we're starting to work on the next national communication. And in moving forward, we also have enhanced the national determined contribution in Jamaica, working on a long-term strategy already. So there's many processes that we are engaging at the same time for which the MRB is anchored, and we need it for yesterday. So with that, let me stop, Madam Chair, and I hope if anybody in the room has questions, I hope I've been able to capture how much work my colleagues in Jamaica are doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you for your response. And now move on to Mr. Mahak, please.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. First, let me thank to CGE for inviting me to share the experience on the institutional arrangement for MRV framework in the context of Cambodia. Before I go into that section, I would like to refer to the previous speaker for the sharing their experience on climate change statistics and data collection. I think when we're talking about climate change, especially in the country like Cambodia, as a least developed country like Cambodia, I think it's very difficult. And it is a big challenge for us whenever we prepare any report under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. We always face the challenge of data. And I really appreciate the work had been done by the CGE members, especially to strengthen their climate change data and statistics. I think it is a good lesson learned for the country like Cambodia to take into consideration for the future. I would say that so far we involved with climate change in more than 20 years, I would say, since the ratification of United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change in 1995. And we prepare several reports under the UNFCCC, like National Communication Report. And right now we're preparing the third National Communication. Besides that, under the Paris Climate Agreement, we prepare our biennial update report. And also we prepare our updated INDC and also updated NDC. And currently we also developing our long-term strategy. So I would say that with the current status of Paris Climate Agreements, more report developed than under the UNFCCC that we did under the National Communication. So if you hear what I share you, it means that, okay, Cambodia developed a lot of reports, so it means that we have a very good, or very strong capacity in the area of development of MRV. Of course, in terms of institutional arrangement, of course, we have in place. We don't have a MRV working group, but we have we call a climate change technical working group, and we use this technical working group as the supporting institution to develop our MOV system. And right now, I think similar to the previous speakers, we try to develop a sectoral MOVs, and with the support from our partners, currently we develop our MOV in the area of energies and also MOV in the area of transport sectors. And when we identify the stakeholders, under the energies, of course we prioritize the stakeholder who experience in energies. And for the transport sector, we identify the stakeholder who more experienced in the transport sector. So it means that we don't have a common team to work consistently. So I think this is one of the lessons learned that we need to take into account. We need to have a strong team and also a strong institution in order to improve the development of our MOV system. Having learned from the sectoral preparation of our MOV, when we develop our updated NDC, we try to discuss among our experts, and then we think that the development of tracking tools is very important in order to trace the progress of the NDC implementation. On that, we try to develop, we call online MOV tracking tool for our updated NDC. I think it's available online right now. I think other countries can check since we just launched last month. So in terms of activities, I would say that we quite progress. But in terms of institution, I would say that we need to enhance more and more in order to be able to strengthen our capacity. One more thing that I would like to share with you, of course we have a team in the countries, but we have the different area of expertise, meaning that whenever we develop we report or our national communication, NDC and so on, we rely mainly on international consultants. And as you may know that the consultant, they come to work only at the time that they're in the contract. After they finish the contract, they go back to their country. And who is responsible to defend our document? We are the person who will present our documents. And if we don't understand in depth, how can we defend that? I think this is very big challenge for our country. And of course, we have tried very long time, but learning climate change is not that easy. It's related to statistics and mathematics. So I think it is very complicated. I would say, as you can see in the previous speaker, that's why I mentioned about climate change statistics and data. This is very complicated. Even you have data, but how to use data is even more complicated in the context of climate change. So I would say that this is the area that Cambodia should take more into account. And I think not only Cambodia, but other countries with a similar capacity situation, I think we should take it into account as well. And, we have also one experience that I also want to share. When we submit our report, of course, we have like technical review and like peer review. And by then, the consultant already left our countries, and then we the person who will defend the question. And, they have like 40, 50 or almost read 200 questions, and it's very complicated time that we need to respond to all the questions. So I think this is the point that we need to take into account. And I think inside country capacity building and institutional arrangement is very important in order to improve future work related to climate change. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mahak. Colleagues, we are running out of time. We just have 5 minutes and still have some questions for you. So I kindly ask you to tie yourself to 2 minutes in responding to my questions. So we are very much interested to know if you have proper institutional arrangement in place for reporting, and how did you utilize the CGE resources in the process? Please, 2 minutes. Over to you, Anita.
The answer is we are in the process of setting those institutional arrangements, and the resources that are coming from the CGE are being used to support the working group that we have established with the institutions that I listed before. And right now we're moving into the process of establishing MOUs. So there is a clear mandate and a clear direction on how and when and what's the type of data that it's necessary to create these communications in an agile manner and timely way. We are also working on developing a legislative framework to support the transparency processes. And if I can mention a couple.
You have 1 minute.
Let me, I feel under pressure. But I think I'm capturing the message that I was given to bring, that under the CIVIT project, at the same time, we are developing the platform to create that repository, because data, as my colleagues have also established, is a challenge, is a scatter, is difficult to access, and in reporting, as we all know, we need data. With CGE, it's all about supporting that task force and supporting those agencies that are involved, providing the capacity and the training, which encompasses with what's happening with CIVIT. So the team that we have in place with the Transparency Initiative is working at the same time in providing that kind of capacity and training through this task force that has been already established.
Thank you. Aniti?
Yes,
Mohammed?
thank you. So, I mean, I want to state that different from my two colleagues, as for Ghana, we are able to develop the needed reports without having to acquire the assistance of international consultants. So I think we are doing fine in that area. Now, when it comes to, in terms of institutional arrangement and MRVs for the various reports, yes, we have established a system which we call the Ghana Climate Ambitious Reporting System, which we use as part of the process, with the Ministry of Environment being at the head, supported by the EPA. We've also signed an MOU with the various institutions that we work with in terms of data collection for the various reporting. I'll move into how the CGE's documentations have assisted us in improving or making preparations towards reporting under the ETF. During the training that was conducted recently, a couple of us were part of it, and we were lucky to have access to two key documents. The first one was on the technical handbook for the developing country parties on preparing for the implementation of the enhanced transparency framework, as well as the handbook on the institutional arrangement support. Coupled with the MPGs, our national focal person has been over the 2 or 3 months undertaking capacity building for the experts in the various thematic areas who provide data for reporting on climate change issues. And so I can say that these two documents that the CGE provided, in addition to the MPGs that the UNFCCC also provided to guide us in the reporting going forward, have aided Ghana very well as part of our preparation towards reporting under the ETF. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mohammed. Mr. Mahak?
Yes, thank you for giving me the opportunity again. I would say that, of course, as I said, we have institutions in place, even we don't have a single MRV institution. I think right now we still young. I would say that we still premature, and we are at the learning stage. So I think it's very important to build more capacities and also to make networking. And certainly, I think CGE play a very important role in order to enhance the capacity of different stakeholders. I think not only in the country, but also with other countries in the world. In that sense, we should consider the expansion of more stakeholders in order to engage to this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mohammed. Thank you for your response. Colleagues, we came to an end. I would like to cordially thank our presenters for their fruitful contributions and response. I would like also to thank our distinguished guest for joining us here today. And I would also like to thank the technical support staff over there. Thank you all and wishing you a pleasant evening and looking forward to meet you again. Thank you.